Some of the most inspirational people we meet in our lives are survivors of domestic violence. And on this episode of Be Inspired, we're going to meet a remarkable person who's doing incredible things as a domestic abuse survivor. Hi, I'm Bert Baron.
And I'm Lisa Anderson.
And we welcome you in to Be Inspired. Our guest this time around, we're going to introduce in just a moment, but our Be Inspired series here is where we bring real stories from folks just like you and I. We share stories of love and loss and struggles and perseverance, even laughter and tears in overcoming adversity. And it's something that all of us do at some point or another in our lives. This episode is made possible by Photo Center in Brick, also Mike Obertlich from Keller Williams in Shrewsbury. Lisa, this is an inspiring guest who we have here, and the horrors that come along with domestic violence, and it's unspeakable. It really is. But I continue to be inspired by people who survive and not only continue to have a life, they have a great life. They have an improved life. And our guest today is a living example of how good life can be.
And you know, even though it's 2019, it's still embarrassing to come forward and say, I'm a victim of domestic violence.
There's still a stigma, you're right.
Yeah, there is. And it takes a lot of courage to come forward. So we're happy to have Jasmine with us today.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you so much.
Such a story you have, Jasmine. And just in meeting you earlier, we had a chance to have a little conversation. I'm inspired by what I know about you so far, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more about you. So share your story if you would.
Well, where would you like me to begin? I was in a relationship for 12 years with somebody who was an addict. A lot of our problems happened because of the addiction. A lot of the anger rose from me questioning whether or not he was using at the time. It was a battle that I wasn't aware of per se, how it was going to start off. I wasn't aware of what addiction really was. So in getting involved with an addict, I had no idea. I had no idea what type of lifestyle I was going to be leading with the relapse, the on and off again relapses. I was not aware of how in-depth addiction really is as far as behaviors and mannerisms. I wasn't aware of that. Not that it's an excuse, because it's totally not, but at one point I actually did become addicted to my addict, which made the battles even stronger and more volatile, and not just on his part, but on my part as well. So with that being said, I can say that I've been through both, whether I was the aggressor or I was the victim at one point in time.
And isn't it easy to blame yourself?
It is very easy to blame yourself going through something like that. You always question your motives and why did I say the things that I said? Why did I do that? Why did I react in this kind of way? Why couldn't I keep myself in control? Why?
Blame.
Right. There's so much blame that happens in a situation like that. And it's very difficult to actually take a look at yourself and realize what was actually your fault versus what was not your fault. And to sit and look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, a real normal situation, this is not going to happen.
Right.
So at that point, to say, well, you know what, I did react in a normal way. And in a normal relationship, a normal, healthy relationship where there is no addiction involved and there is no mental illness involved, you can react in that way and it's not going to turn volatile. It's going to be a healthy communication with, I feel you've done this, or, is this what's going on? And you can have that conversation to where you can come to an agreement or some kind of, solution to whatever the problem is.
Instead of an emotional roller coaster.
Yes, and I've lived an emotional roller coaster for a very long time, and I'm glad to be off of it.
Jasmine, there's a real life or death fear for someone who was in a situation like you were in, fearing for your own life, there were children involved here too, at least one child?
We have two.
So there's a fear for them as well. Were there days when you thought maybe this is it, this is as bad as it's going to be, where you felt like your life was in real danger?
There was a couple of times, and like I said, there was a couple times where I actually probably put more of that danger on myself and my children by reacting to his actions in such a way that when I look back now, I'm disgusted within myself because how could I treat somebody else that way because they're going through what they're going through? Why didn't I react in a better way? I'm responsible for my own actions. I'm not responsible for what he did or, what other people do. I'm only responsible for me. And I can honestly say there were times that I was the aggressor in situations because my feelings were hurt or because I wanted to set boundaries, but I didn't know how to set those boundaries. So if you don't know how to do those things and you don't know how to cope with what's going on, you're going to react in a way that's just not normal as well. So I finally was able to learn how to create boundaries and how not to react to certain situations. And that's what's really important. When you can learn how to cope in a very uncomfortable situation, whether it's you see your loved one using and they're suffering and there's nothing you can do to help, no matter how much you yell, no matter how many derogatory statements you make towards them, tough love.
Right.
If they don't want the help, they're not going to get the help.
And as a mom, our first instinct is
Protect
to help
my babies.
Yeah, or to help anyone, really. And you also said, and this is probably why it took such a long time to get out of this abusive situation, when he was not using your partner, he was great.
He was the most amazing person that you would have ever met. The most amazing person, and that's why I fell in love with him. And if I can give you that brief story of how I fell in love with him, you would probably understand. I was a single mom with my first son, and he basically adopted him as his number one son. That's what he used to call him, number one son. And we were together, I would say, maybe just a couple of weeks before Christmas came. And I had a little tree and had an apartment, and I had presents under the tree. There wasn't a lot. And when I tell you a little tree, I mean probably like a 2-foot table topper type of tree.
Charlie Brown.
Yeah, it was a Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
Okay.
But I did my best.
Sure.
And my son was happy. He wasn't the type of child that expected things. It was, I'm grateful for the things that I had. That's everything that I've always taught my children was be grateful for the things that you have because you never know when it's going to be taken away from you. There's people that have less. Right. So he came over and he's like, "These are your Christmas presents?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." And he's like, "Oh no, this is not happening." He actually went to the store that night and bought all kinds of toys. And I'm a female, raising a boy. Yeah. I didn't know anything about G.I. Joes and Power Rangers, and stocking stuffers weren't really a big thing. Like I put, little hats and gloves and stuff like that in there. And, it was just, wow, here's this person. We've only known each other in a relationship for a couple of weeks, and you're doing this for my child to make sure that they have a great Christmas because you knew I couldn't afford it. That's when I instantly fell in love, instantly. And at the time he was clean. So, at that point it was just like, wow, like this guy is really amazing. And so if that gives you an idea of the type of person that he was, that's what made me fall in love with him.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of similar stories out there by women who are in a situation just like yours, Jasmine, and we're going to talk more about your story and your life now that I'm really interested in learning about, too, in just a few moments.
Hey man, it's a brighter day than yesterday for the people say there is love. If there is love.
Be Inspired would like to recognize Photo Center in Brick and say thank you to them. They're family owned and operated since 1977. The Photo Center carries a full line of digital cameras, camera accessories, and hosts photo classes and workshops. Information on Photo Center in Brick, the largest camera store in Monmouth and Ocean County, available by going to photocenter.com. Also, thanks to Chain Gang Pro Performance Clothing, a new local company focused on providing activewear for your active moments. Check out their story and line of products at chaingangpro.com or follow their journey on Instagram or Facebook by searching Chain Gang Pro. Be Inspired would also like to thank Mike Obertlich from Keller Williams in Shrewsbury, New Jersey. Mike Obertlich services Monmouth and Ocean County, so if you plan on moving to Monmouth County, you gotta go to Mo. You can list or sell your home by calling Mike Obertlich at 908-216-0551. Hashtag gotta go to Mo, a realtor you will grow to love. We are so honored to be joined by Jasmine Rodriguez this time around on the Be Inspired series here. She's sharing her story. Every story like this, you have a rock bottom point, and you think about, well, this has to be as bad as it can possibly be for me. Did you hit that rock bottom and walk us through the steps to the life that you have today?
In a nutshell, his life, he hit rock bottom. And so when he hit rock bottom, me and my family hit rock bottom. I will say that he was incarcerated and he did pass away. At the time, I will leave it at that moment, but just to know that when that happened, I was devastated. And to have to tell your 11-year-old son and your 18-year-old, and the police come to the door and tell you he's gone, was just a nightmare. And so for that, you think back to everything. What could I have done differently? Why is this happening? And then I realized I needed to stop asking why and remember that everything does happen for a reason. I wear a bracelet to this day that says everything happens for a reason. And it's to remind me that with every negative situation that happens, there's always something positive you can take from it. And in doing those thinking sessions with myself and crying and screaming and the why, and I always told myself, what is it that you can do differently in the future? What kind of person do you want to be? I don't ever want to be a victim, ever. I always want to be a survivor. So no matter what, from the time I was small until now, I will continue. I don't care if my fingernails are broken as I'm dragging myself up a cliff.
Good for
I
you.
will get to the top eventually. No matter what happens, if the rock slips beneath me, I'm still going to grip on tight. I have something to live for. And I want people out there to know that they also have something to live for. Life is what you make of it.
Yeah.
So if you sit there and you waste your energy on crying and woe is me and blaming other people, you're not going to get to the top. You're going to be stuck on that cliff. But I encourage people to look past that. Look past the blame. Look past your mistakes. Forgive yourself. Forgive other people. Because you need to do that for yourself.
You can't move on.
You cannot move on.
Right.
You cannot move forward completely until you can let go and I have the tattoo. Let go, let God is something that I learned through this whole thing. And to also be honest with yourself.
And what an example you're leaving your children, too. You're teaching them. You could have easily, like you said, lived a life of blame and despair and depression and all that. And when you walked in here today, immediately, beautiful smile. No one would ever know that you had the 12 years of what you endured. So your kids see that. And that, I think, empowers them, enables them to be strong as well.
Yes, that's one thing that I'm constantly trying to teach my children is that you don't have to stay behind.
Right.
You can let things go and move forward, and you have to fight for yourself. You can never give up on yourself. I don't care what it is. My younger son, he struggles with his grades right now, and that's the one thing that I'm constantly telling him is do not give up on yourself because your father is not here. You cannot do that. You have to keep going forward. You have to make some kind of life for yourself because he's not coming back. And that's the harsh reality of it. And the harsh reality of living through domestic abuse is not being able to look at yourself truly. When I looked in the mirror before, I used to say, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you still here? There's so much shame that comes with living that lifestyle. It's the cycle that keeps repeating itself unless you put an end to it, unless you set your boundaries. And I would have multiple conversations with many friends, bashing the whole relationship and, I can't stand him and I got to get away. But I never did. And I never did. And people get tired of hearing that. So then you stop talking. And sometimes
your
it gets
credibility,
worse. Right.
kind of.
And your credibility. And I know that there's people out there feeling exactly what I'm feeling right this very moment. And I just want to tell them, you can stop this. You can be strong enough. You can do it. You can get away from the situation and survive.
You're right. Well, Jasmine Rodriguez, you are an inspiration to so many people, to your family, to your children, and just people listening and being a part of this program today who unfortunately are victims of domestic violence. You're a living example that there is hope and there is a future for people. So thank you for inspiring us and sharing your story with us here today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Bert Baron.
And I'm Lisa Anderson.
And we thank you for joining us on Be Inspired. Hosted by Lisa Anderson and Bert Baron. Director of Production, Rod Weber. Executive Producers, Rod Weber and Sean M. Sternberg. Creator and Executive Producer, Michael R. Doyle. Also thanks to Chain Gang Pro Performance Clothing, Michael Obertlich from Keller Williams, and the Photo Center in Brick.